Okay, so welcome to Retech, and today it's going to be very different. It's going to be a video about Quicksilver software, or Quicksilver as it was known as, and it's about how the company was formed, who formed it, and where it led to. Now it's going to be very, very different because today we're going to have Dr. Mark Eyles talking about his experiences with Quicksilver, how it started off, how it progressed, and then where it ended up. And it's going to be very different in the form of videos, in the form of interview, because normally when you do an interview with somebody, what most people do is they lead them down a path through their own questioning of a direction that they want the interviewee to take. Now, in this episode and the subsequent episodes from this video, we're going to allow Mark just to say what he wants to say, give everybody his view on how the computer scene was in the early 1980s and how Quicksilver evolved. No leading questions, and it's going to be all out of Mark's own experiences. Now, because of the length of the video and the topics that were actually covered by Dr. Mark Eyles, we're going to split this up into three. The first video is going to be about the formation of Quicksilver and how it evolved, and then where it ended up. And the second video is going to be after Quicksilver and what Mark Eyles did and how he evolved and where he in fact ended up. And then the third video is going to be his thoughts on education, the BBC's computer literacy program and where it led to, and where the current state of our teaching of IT and computer science is in the UK at the moment, and where he would like to see it go, along with how to become involved in the games industry as well. So that's going to be in part 3. Now, got to say a really big thank you to Mark for this, because it's a very, very well presented, very thought-provoking video, and it's something that really we need to get out there, because if anybody who was around in the 1980s remembers Quicksilver, they will realize how fundamentally different the company was and how it fundamentally changed the ideas of producing software for these early micros. So let's take a look at Mark Eyles and Quicksilver, and let's have a look.
Hello, my name's Mark Eyles, and I was the first employee at Quicksilver, which was a game software company that was formed by Nick Lambert in 1979. He started off the company because he was a bit of a computer geek, except there weren't any computers at that time, or very few, apart from big mainframes and that sort of thing. But home computers were just beginning to appear. There was the ZX80, Sinclair ZX80, that was one of the first, and that's what Nick started out with. And he also liked playing video games, which once again, there weren't many around at that time. That was very early days, and there were arcade machines with games on, but it was very early games, and there was the first game consoles had come out, so there's a bit of that going on. Nick was a big fan of Defender, so he wanted to create his own version of Defender on the ZX80, which was pretty cutting edge. So he started programming it, and then discovered that the ZX80 didn't have enough memory. So he designed and built a memory board to plug into the back, because you needed more memory, and how else were you going to do it unless you did it yourself, because there weren't lots of off-the-shelf solutions. So he built the memory board. His friend John Hollis helped out with that, helped design that and put that together. and he put together his version of Defender for the ZX80, and then started selling it, and started selling the memory board. And that was kind of how Quicksilver started. And it was right at the beginning, at the birth of the games industry in the UK. At that time, there was only a small handful of companies working on home computer games. There was only a handful of people working in the games industry. I mean, by the time I joined Nick in 1981, he had put together his ZX80 version of Defender and was working on stuff, on hardware and games for the ZX81. So I got involved kind of almost by accident. That I was looking for. I was out of work. I had been teaching for just under 2 years and had quit that, and was looking for work. And I was introduced to Nick by a friend, Simon Oldham at Arc Electronics, and he said, "Oh, look, there's this guy. He's looking for someone to help him out because he's got really busy with this this new thing, this games industry thing, this making hardware for home computers." So I went round and saw Nick and said, "Oh yes, I could help you doing that. That would be no problem at all." And Nick said, "Oh great, I need someone that can help putting all this hardware together that I've been selling. You know, it's really going well. I'm advertising in the back of Practical Electronics." No computer magazines, no game magazines at the time, so Practical Electronics, and I'm selling this game and selling these RAM boards, and got some more hardware on the way, but I need someone to help out with that. And I thought, oh right, I did. When I was at school, I once soldered something, so it can't be that difficult. Oh yes, I could help you with that. So he said, "Oh look, try soldering together this RAM board," and gave me a board to solder up. So I kind of put in all the components and soldered away very merrily, and I made a complete botch of it, complete mess. And Nick said, "You haven't actually done a lot of soldering, have you?" I said, "Well, not really, no, but how hard could it be?" So I started out helping him out, and the first task was cutting down the connectors for plugging the boards into the back of the ZX81. So you used to get these long connectors that needed cutting down, needed the pins pulling out, and then they needed cutting down into small lengths so they plug into the back of a ZX81 or a ZX80. So that was enormous fun. I even had a special piece of wood for wedging them in and then sawing them down into the right lengths. Here's a big box of these long connectors, and can you make them all small? So I took those away and did that. And just got more and more involved. And it was at first it was, oh, here's these odd bits of stuff that I need doing, can you help out? And then it slowly metamorphosed into, oh, actually you're kind of working full time on this. So it transitioned from being just a little bit of money on the to kind of help out and stuff. I mean, I was signing on at the time and looking around for jobs and things, but it kind of morphed into, here's just a little bit of money for doing these odds and ends, to actually you're kind of an employee now and you need to sign off and you're kind of working full time on this, which was amazing. So that happened over quite a short period, over a few months, I would guess. Certainly not very long. And Quicksilver was kind of went from being just a bit of a backroom hobby industry, cottage industry, into being a proper company. it actually went from being Nick Lambert trading as Quicksilver to Quicksilver Limited. Yeah, so it kind of did turn into a real company. And around that time, I was kind of trying to estimate how many people were in the industry at the time, in the UK games industry. And by looking back at the first ZX Micro Fair, you can look at the list of sort of companies that are there, and also look at the early computer games magazines, or the Sinclair Users and Your Computer and stuff like that, and see how many people were advertising in them. And it's I would estimate there was maybe as many as 50 people in the UK games industry at that time, all kind of interesting pioneers who'd come to it mainly, almost entirely as a hobby, as being enthusiastic about this thing, not we're going to make games to make lots of money, but hey, I really like games and I really like computers, and this is really interesting and new and good fun, and hey, let's do it. So it kind of grew like that. So it was, this is 1981 to 82, that sort of time, and that was a turning point in the UK for home computers and for the games industry. That was when the ZX81 started selling in volume, which was largely due to it being stocked in WH Smith's. John Rowland there was incredibly pivotal in creating the kind of home computer games industry in the UK, that he started stocking ZX81s and games in WH Smith's. So I guess that I was probably, and I don't know 100% for sure, but I was probably the first person to be an employee of a games company. So I didn't, the Quicksilver was already founded, and I kind of got involved on the ground floor, but it was already running, and it was kind of Nick's company, and John Hollis was helping out. He was working at another company, Q1, that made electronic organs, I think, and various bits of hardware and software, that he was working there and helping out Nick in his spare time. But I was the first person actually working at Quicksilver with Nick, and together we built the company. It was very much Nick's vision at the beginning there, and also John was very involved in building it at the beginning there. And when I arrived, I guess, kind of reflect on this, I think that blimey, phones my phone's talking to me, isn't it mad? Yeah, technology. So it was Nick's vision that was driving it forward, and I kind of arrived, and I suppose between us we were doing lots of all the things that you needed to do to keep it running, that I was quite happy to develop those soldering skills and start soldering boards, and happy to get involved with, slowly get more and more involved with the day-to-day running of the company, and liaising with people, and also I guess helping out a bit with the product itself, with the artwork and the writing text, writing story blurb for the covers. It's like that was I'm such a footnote in the games industry. I think my claim to fame is I might have been the first person to put those stories on the covers, certainly in the UK. And it was an idea of, oh look, I'm going to try and create this whole world. Here we've got a couple of little dots moving around on the screen, but in my imagination it's a whole universe. And so trying to enrich the experience as much as possible for the users. But we moved from Nick's front room, or his back room. We were in his back room, and then we had a post lady who came in and dealt with all the posts, who sat in the front room in Nick's house that he was renting in Upper Brownhill Road in Southampton. That we moved from there to Northern Road in Southampton, and that was some friends of Nick's who had a shop there which they used to trade out of, selling kind of leather belts and buckles and things, but they weren't doing that at the time, so we took over that shop and Quicksilver moved to there. At this time there was one or two shops in the UK selling computer games. There was WH Smith's, which had started selling them, but also I think the first shop that started doing it was Buffer Micro Shop in London that they set up and started selling games. So this is really early times, and everything's mail order. And of course, it's way before the internet, which would have clearly been a very handy way to sell all your games, as we have seen. But at that time, everything had to be mail order, so you had to advertise in magazines, and people would send in their postal orders or checks, and we'd send them out games and bits of hardware. So the stuff was being sold like that, and we had catalogues, and people were sending stamped addressed envelopes, and we put the catalogue in and send it back to them, and they were starting to order stuff. The other place that we sold things was the ZX Microfairs and a couple of other kind of events that grew up like that, different microfairs. So we'd pile a load of hardware and tapes, or the games were on tapes at that time. Oh look, I'm making a tape shape. So the games were on tapes at that time. So we take boxes of those up to the microfair and have a stall there. A friend of ours, Roy Roberts, made a really nice stand for us, which had kind of monitors, TVs as monitors up in the air, and it was all very fancy looking, and we were able to kind of show off the hardware and the games there, and it was just selling them, just people crowding round our trestle table shoving money at us, and we were giving them stuff back. It's kind of how it works. But that was really quite strange times, because there wasn't anywhere else that you could go to buy this stuff, or very few places. To get the timeline clear, the microfairs before WH Smith's, and during that time, but that was where you went to get the stuff before Smith's was stocking it. There's other people stocked as well. You used to get them in Boots and places. It was interesting times. So in 81 to 82, we were selling stuff mail order, and we were getting, when it came round to Christmas time, we were getting sacks of mail and sending out sacks of games, and it became clear that producing hardware was quite hard work, that you had to organise all the manufacturing and stuff, and this was all cottage industry stuff. It was people soldering the boards together at home and making the bits of hardware, and we're sending them out and so on. And there's a decision think Nick and John had a chat about that and decided that they'd stop with the hardware, move away from that. It was just too prohibitive. It was much easier producing software, because if you needed 300 game tapes instead of 100, you just phone up the tape duplicator and ask for that many, and then they duplicate it for you, and you don't have to go out and buy in all the different chips and things and get all the boards produced and then go and find people to build them and then have all this stock piled up of all these bits of hardware. So there was a decision to go down the software route. So around this time, this is Northern Road days, and my girlfriend Caroline, who's now my wife, came to work for us too, and she was probably the first woman in the games industry in the UK. There weren't any others, not till Heather Lamont at Rabbit Software. There was like 2 women. It was just all a bit pitiful, yeah, all a bit bad. Not things have improved a bit, but still some way to go in the games industry and kind of evening things up. So myself and Caroline were kind of running the company, and Nick and John were taking not a back seat, but they were concentrating on producing software. Nick was coming up with lots of big ideas, which was something he was very good at. He liked to come up with a big idea, which often might involve lots of work for other people. But John was busy working from home. He'd left his full-time job at Q1 and started working full-time for Quicksilver and writing games, and there's a whole lot of games that he produced for us, which gave us a bit of an edge. I mean, like, he was a bit of a tech programming guru, so it did give us a bit definitely an edge at the time, that we were producing stuff that was quite stunning, and yeah, kind of leading that whole industry for a short time there in the early 80s. There were other really good companies, and there are other brands around, but hey, we were the one at the time. We were right at the front there. I think round this time it was all working very well. Nick started to become slightly less involved over a period of time and leaving it much more up to us to kind of run the company. And around this time we got Rod Cousins involved, who went on to become quite an industry figure, working at Acclaim and Activision, and he was our secret weapon for a while. We used to have meetings round at John's flat in Malmesbury Avenue in Southampton, with me and Nick and Caroline and John and John's wife Min, and we'd sit around and go, oh, what shall we do? How are we going to... Hold on, let me turn off the sound on my other computer. This technology's gone mad. It's crazy these days. So we'd have meetings kind of on Friday mornings. I think it was, yeah, Friday mornings. We used to get together and what should we do to take over the world? And we were going, oh, look, there's all this business stuff happening, and we talked about business, don't know how that works at all. So we we were thinking, oh, if only we had someone who knew business or had a suit and could wear a tie. So we were trying to think of someone, and Caroline said, aha, what about that person, Rod, that went to try and sell insurance to Nick? Because Rod had previously visited Nick and tried to, when Rod was working at, I think, Canada Life Insurance Company, and was he was selling insurance, and he went and visited Nick and had a whole big excited discussion with Nick about all the fun stuff that Nick was doing with the game software. So we thought, yes, he has a suit. Perfect. And so we got him, so called him in and ended up getting him in to initially set up a whole big distribution network, because it occurred to us that we were having companies contact us from abroad who wanted our software, and we needed someone to kind of look after that whole side of things and set up a whole network, a distribution network, and organise all of the stuff I know nothing about about selling stuff abroad. And so Rod came in to do that, and he did indeed have a suit and was cunningly, amazingly good at business and negotiation and doing deals and sorting stuff out. So he came in and started working at Quicksilver, and soon was working for us full time as kind of managing director. And this enabled Nick to step back from things and spend more time on his what's he doing? He was surfing a bit. No, he was windsurfing. That was it. That was his big thing. He was able to spend more time windsurfing, and we grew out of Northern Road and moved into kind of 3-story offices, little building in Palmerston Road in Southampton. So we moved into proper offices of our own. We bought the building, which had 1, 2, 3 floors and a basement where there was a storeroom and the toilet. And so that was quite grown up, really, having your own offices and things, and also employing a number of other people. Paul Cooper, Mark Tilson, Susan Clifton, as Heather and Rosemary, and the whole group of us which were running the company. And it grew and grew until a company called there's Argus Press Software, which were part of the Argus group of magazines, which were owned by British Electric Traction Company. You couldn't make this stuff up. So British Electric Traction Company was a huge PLC company, and one of the things that they did was buy companies, and they sent in their company buying person to buy Quicksilver, and he contacted Nick and John, and they thought, ooh, this sounds like a good plan. So Rod spent most of 1983 and through into 1984 negotiating the sale of Quicksilver, and we had our hands a bit tied. It was over that time we couldn't tell anyone what was happening, and also we couldn't do anything without kind of getting permission. It was very odd time. And by not tell anyone, there was myself and Rod and Nick and John and Caroline that knew what was going on with selling the company. no one else. That initially we couldn't tell the people working at the company because, it's what if it didn't happen, and what was gonna go on, and it was all a bit weird for a while there. So this was an exit strategy for Nick and John. Definitely, they were ready to move on and do something new and wonderful each. Myself and Rod would rather have not sold the company and kept it going. The company was very successful, and our argument was that, well, hey, it's going to earn as much money over the next few years as we could get through selling it, so hey, why not keep it going? And it'll kind of pay us wages, and it'll all be fantastic. But as we were not major shareholders, our say was not as convincing as Nick and John. So they were convinced that they wanted to sell the company. So hey, that wasn't a complete disaster. But the company was sold in 1984 for $1.25 million. Which was very good, because that was just at the time that there was the 1984 big computer game boom crash thing, when the kind of bottom dropped out of the market, and all of a sudden there was a glut of games and people couldn't sell them, and there were lots of other companies suddenly turning up going, oh, can someone buy us, because it's all a disaster. So we were really lucky in exiting at just exactly the right time, and probably the only company which did get sold for a significant amount of money, and certainly at that time when the bottom had dropped out the market. Very strange times. So the company was sold. I'm still convinced that if it had kept going, that me and Rod would have been able to build it and continue to... My phone again. Just shut up. We could have continued building it. It was a market leader at the time, and particularly if we hadn't had that kind of rather distracting 1983 when things were going all over the place with having to negotiate the sale of the company, it would have been different. But hey, it turned out not too bad.
So I hope you enjoyed Mark's memories and Mark's take on Quicksilver software and how it evolved, and also where it led to. And as you could probably appreciate, that Mark is probably one of the nicest people you can ever meet or interact with, and it's nice to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak, rather than a documentary which is second, third or fourth hand, just going on snippets from articles and maybe pieces on the internet. So I hope you look forward to the next installment, and we'll cover what happened after Quicksilver and what led to Mark doing what he does up to the current day. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe, and I'll see you on this channel soon. Thank you.